You're watching the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean-Paul Leek, and this is Rope Break. Guys, hope you're doing well. Tuesday morning, so you know what time it is. Monday Night Raw review. But before we get into the review, like always, check out all the content from last week. We got plenty of it. Hell in a Cell, Soccer, Bound for Glory, all the weekly shows, NXT UK, through yours truly right here, Monday Night Raw. So, guys, make sure you check all that out. Thank you to all the new subscribers, old subscribers, everybody who's part of the family. We love you. And the one thing we do love is decent episodes of Monday Night Raw. And this one definitely fits in that category. It was a pretty watchable episode. Not really too much to complain about. There's always some. There's always going to be something where you're like, really? Like, am I really seeing this on a professional wrestling television show? But am I really questioning it because it's WWE, it's Monday Night Raw? There's really only one legit wrestling show on anymore, and that's NXT UK, and I will die on that hill. So, speaking of dying on the hills, we open the show with the former WWE champion, Drew McIntyre. So he comes out, and he pretty much says how, hey, I'm not going to come out here, make excuses, that I just have one promise, and I will be WWE champion again. And then he leaves us with a quote from Rocky that has been inspiration to him. And he said, it's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward, and how much you can take and keep moving forward. And that's how winning is done. And then, he always says that when he gets knocked down, he gets up twice as strong. Just really, kind of just motivational words here. And then Miz and Morrison come out. And then they're just kind of berating the champ. And he's like, hey, do you guys want me to kick your ass or what's going on? And they're like, no, Drew, it's good. You had a legit title reign. Hey, everybody, give him a round of applause or give him an encore. They're like, but, with you, it was impressive, but it's not as impressive as me, the Miz, being a two-time Mr. Money in the Bank. And, then Drew's getting pissed off. And then they say that our Miz says to him, it's like, well, hey, at least you're not Randy Orton, because Randy Orton has to worry about me now. You don't have to worry about me cashing in on you. And, he's like, because if I cash in on you, then you would just be sad and depressed and, a loser. And then they just keep going on. And then Drew eventually gets pissed off. He headbutts the Miz. And then Morrison is like, oh, hey, we both like to speak Scottish. He's making fun of his accent and stuff. So he takes him out, or he goes to the Miz, pretty much hits a chop block on him, and then they roll out of there. So that just sets up for later in the night when we get a match between Drew McIntyre and the Miz. And, the opening, it wasn't bad because the segment showed that Drew's still a top guy. They're still going to treat him good. Miz and Morrison are still kind of jokers, still kind of like the mid-card act, but with the Money in the Bank now, the Miz has got to be taken a little bit more seriously. But we are getting the first match of the night, and that's going to be AJ Styles going against Jeff Hardy for, this will determine who's going to be on the Men's Survivor Series team. So I like this. Because, they're not just picking guys. They did that for the women. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that later on. They just picked for the women. But, those matches usually aren't anything too special. No offense. So, but, like, the men's match is usually pretty good. So I like when they, have some qualifying matches. But this was Styles. He came out. He had his bodyguard with him. And he pretty much said that, hey, the second era, I guess you would call it, of AJ Styles, has begun here on Monday Night Raw. And he's like, you guys, he's like, I know you missed me, but, I'm back. And he says, I'm going to win this match here tonight, be on the Men's Survivor Series team. And he's like, and when I win, I should also be the team captain, because who else would you rather have as the team captain? Come on now. And then he mentions, how the match is against Jeff Hardy. And he's like, Hardy cheated. He used that legal cast in an illegal way, to pretty much take the IC title from me. And, he said this is bullshit. And his associate here that, a lot of people have been asking about him. He's like, don't even ask him about him. He doesn't like when people look at him. He doesn't like when you look at his face. He doesn't like when you acknowledge him. So just let him go. But then we get the match Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles. Like I said, this was for spot on the Survivor Series team, and this was pretty good. This wasn't the best match of the 3 qualifying matches we got tonight, but this one was still pretty good. AJ dominated early on, and then Jeff, got some offense in. Jeff, he goes to jump on AJ on the outside. The bodyguard catches him. And I like how he didn't really do anything super physical in this match. We saw him catch Jeff here, went to commercial break, but then Jeff was on offense again. So it wasn't anything where, we saw him throw Jeff into a ring post or, do like a choke slam or anything crazy like that. But it was a lot of back and forth. These two guys are good, but we've seen them wrestle before. This wasn't their best match that they've put on. But at the end of this thing, both men are on the apron, and Hardy goes for a twist of fate. Styles sends him into the ring post. Then he goes up top, hits the phenomenal forearm. 1, 2, 3. This was good. And before that, to make note, AJ hit a torture rack bomb. That was a really good spot. But the main thing before this is where Jeff Hardy was pretty much going to look like he was going to win this thing, is I believe he hit a twist of fate, and then he climbs up to the top of the ring post. He's going to jump down the top rope, and then the bodyguard just kind of walks over and looks at him. So then that distracts Jeff enough that AJ can knock him down. And then I believe that's when he hit that torture rack bomb. But, it was really good. That's how the bodyguard gets involved. I like that. He's not getting, like I said, he doesn't get physical. He just, if you just ignore him and just, do the move, he might not have gotten in the ring because that would have cost a DQ for AJ. So, it's all on the baby faces. It's almost like their fault. So I like that role. And AJ's a guy, he's another one, like I said, like Drew. He doesn't have the belt on him, but he's a top guy. So you got to push him. So it was right for him to win here. But Jeff, we still love you. So then post-match, Elias comes. He hits him with a guitar. And then that is obviously going to continue on their feud. But then we get R-Truth. He's backstage. He's getting interviewed about the 24/7 championship. And, he pretty much just says, yeah, I like to live dangerously. Dangerously is my middle name. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. But then we get the match coming up, which is Akira Tozawa and Drew Gulak versus the Lucha House Party. So, Lucha House Party, I feel sorry for you. From SmackDown, you were legit. Monday Night Raw. Here we get to see this. I mean, all 4 of these guys are badass, but the role they're put in and the way that they're presented, not so much. Well, halfway through this thing, I would say let's just jump to there. R-Truth, he comes out, and pretty much the whole match goes to shit then because Tozawa tries to roll him up. Everybody's trying to roll him up, and I believe it was Lince Dorado was the one who pins Drew Gulak in this thing. So the Lucha House Party at least win. Hopefully that means a win in the tag team division column and not the 24/7 bullshit column. So, hopefully they can maybe go against the New Day or somebody like that. We'll see. But, of course, after this thing, everybody just tries to pin R-Truth as he runs off. So, anybody care? No, not really. But something that we do care about is we get a Firefly Funhouse segment. Now, this was good. Bray is dressed up as the Mad Hatter. They're getting all ready for Halloween. He's like, oh, I have a special guest coming. Boom, it's Alexa Bliss. She looks like Alice. She is T for the, that rabbit or, rambling rabbit or whatever, the white rabbit or whatever it is in Alice in Wonderland. I can't remember. Oh, the hare or something. So, she gives him tea. He drinks it. He's like, oh, this is good. She's like, oh, it has a secret ingredient in it. And I think she said it was like arsenic or something or some kind of poison. So he's done. And then Bray, he's laughing, and then he says that this is a magical, fun place here at the Fun House. You have to be mad. And, Bliss gets, it pretty much zooms in on her face, and, they're talking about the Fiend, and he's like, he protects everybody, here in the Fun House. He heals them, but all you have to do is, and then that's when it zooms in on Alexa Bliss's face. Her eyes are all like photoshopped red or whatever. And she says, let him in. And then she promotes, that she's going to have Randy Orton on a Moment of Bliss later. And then it cuts to Bray Wyatt with a portrait behind him or like a painting of a house on fire. And then he's, has this really intense look on his face. And that's one thing I like. Boom. As soon as they announced Randy Orton on a Moment of Bliss, I was like, okay, they listen to Rope Break, they followed logic. They know as soon as the Fiend got to Monday Night Raw. That's the feud you needed to do. Bray Wyatt was going after everybody, or the Fiend, excuse me, was going after everybody who wronged Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton was definitely one of the biggest offenders. So then, Rambling Rabbit comes back to life, and Bray pretty much just beats the shit out of him with his mallet again, and he says that Randy Orton on a moment of bliss is going to be fire. So hinting at burning down the funhouse, So that was good. That was a good segment, and, I don't really have any complaints. Then we get back to commentary, and they recap everything with Keith Lee and Braun Strowman because we have that match coming up soon. And then we see Lee backstage. He's being interviewed. He's like, yeah, Braun Strowman couldn't beat me like a man, so he had to low blow me. So next time, he wants to face me, I'll show him what a real monster is. But tonight, I have a Survivor Series qualifying match, so I have to prepare myself because I'm about to walk with Elias. And he's all like, okay, this asshole, like this loser I got to deal with. So I like the intensity from Keith Lee. I like the attitude change. He's not all like, Mr. Pleasant, Mr. Oh, hello, greetings and salutations. No, he's pissed off. He has this edge to him now, but not like an edginess, like a, bullshit. It's just like a no nonsense. And it's really good. I like it. I wouldn't say a full on heel turn or anything like that yet, but we'll see where they go for this. And then we get Adam Pearce. He's backstage with Nia Jax. She comes up to him. She's like, oh, hey, clearly I'm going to be the women's captain for the Survivor Series team. Here's my list of, my picks. Shayna's like, whoa. No, clearly it's going to be me. Here's my list. So Nia grabs it. She's like, I'm not even on this list. And then Adam Pearce is like, listen, I'll take both your lists under consideration. We already have a cat, it's already good, whatever. So then, and then Shayna's like, well, Nia, was I on your list? And she's like, oh, wouldn't you like to know? And then walks off. So then we get Elias in the ring, and, he says, oh, yeah, I'm done with Jeff Hardy. My feud with him is in the past. I don't care about it anymore. Yeah, because you busted a guitar on him, a couple minutes ago. So, of course, your feud's done with him now. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to start playing my, a new song for my album, Universal Truth. And when he starts to sing, all bask in his glory, Keith Lee comes out. So we get the second match. And this one was definitely the weakest, but it's because Elias, it's Elias. And Keith Lee dominated this thing really early on, like you would suspect. But Elias, he got some offense. He hit the drift away at the end of this thing. And it looked like, maybe, because Keith Lee was really selling for him. He was giving him the 2.5 counts. Keith Lee was like, okay. He was kicking out with authority on some of these, but, it was close there. He was making me sweat. But then Elias hits the drift away. He goes up top, and he's definitely going up there for that Macho Man elbow. Jeff Hardy's music hits. He stands on the top rope, perched there like an idiot, just waiting. Like, well, where is this asshole? He's looking around. He doesn't see no Jeff Hardy. Keith Lee grabs him, pretty much launches him all the way across the ring, picks him up, spirit bomb, 1, 2, 3. What did you think? Elias was going to be Keith Lee? No, you knew he was in the middle of a feud with Jeff Hardy. And pretty much when he cracked that guitar over Jeff Hardy, you already knew that Jeff Hardy was going to screw him in this match. And again, with Jeff Hardy losing, that pretty much cemented it that this was going to happen. So the right winner here, obviously. And then after the match, Jeff comes up with the guitar, boom, cracks Elias. So that feud is definitely going to continue. Where's Jeff Jarrett in all this? I think Elias or somebody made fun of Jeff Jarrett, but we need him to crack a guitar over Elias's head just to make this complete with how many guitars are getting blown up. Or New Jack, but I don't think New Jack's never stepped foot in WWE, and I don't see that happening soon. So then we get back with the Hurt Business. This is a little funny segment. They're backstage. Some little jabroni goes to use their bathroom, or he used it, and they yell at him, and he almost shits his pants again, and they laugh it off. So, funny stuff there. Then Orton, he's backstage, and, he's being interviewed by Charlie, and she asks him the possibility of him or the Fiend making an appearance tonight on A Moment of Bliss, and he says that he doesn't care, because at the end of the day, there's only one Randy Orton, and only people that need to be concerned with him are the ones that cross him. And that if the Fiend does come out, he'll introduce him to the 3 most dangerous letters in WWE, and that's RKO. So then we get go back to the announce desk with Tom Phillips, and he pretty much, tells us about the 8-man tag match we're getting tonight, Retribution versus the Hurt Business. So, then we go to the ring. MVP is there. He takes the mic and he says that the Hurt Business doesn't run from anybody, including Retribution. And then Lashley says that Retribution is a liability, and MVP as that Retribution is bad for business, and he struck a deal with the company to take them out. And Benjamin says that once they take out their opposition, they want their payment in gold, which is good. These guys need to make a demand for more gold. They're being pushed as a good, really strong stable. Let's get some more gold on them besides Lashley with the United States Championship. And speaking of that, they did announce a lot of the matches for Survivor Series, and that is one of them. You will see Sami Zayn going against Bobby Lashley. That has a little bit of history, which, I'd rather forget, that awful segment with Lashley when he first came to WWE. So hopefully they don't go into that too much, but I'm sure they will because it's awful. And speaking of awful, we get this elimination match, and this really wasn't that good. That we as we get going into the thing a little bit, Slapjack's in there, T-Bar, these guys are mixing it up. MVP is in there, and I believe it's with Slapjack. And then who was it with here? Let's see here. Yeah, it was Slapjack. So MVP's in there with him. And Mia Yim, or Reckoning, or whatever the hell her name is, she just starts convulsing and freaking out in the ring. MVP's like, what the hell? He looks at the ref. He's like, what is she doing? He's like, get her out of here. Like, what the hell's going on? So Slapjack rolls MVP up. He's eliminated. And then I'm like, what is going on? Because Mia Yim was still like freaking out and convulsing. I'm like, what? I'm like, was she selling it to get an MVP like rolled up, or to get him eliminated, or what's going on here? And then we come back for commercial break. She's laughing it off. So I'm like, oh, okay, legit. That is what she was doing. So I did like that, and I'm like, okay, this will be a way really get Retribution over that they got to cheat, that they're slimy, but as long as they win and they look good, then it's the right thing to do. Did they do that? No. Because, you get Lashley. He comes in. He spears Slapjack. That makes sense. But then we get T-Bar and Lashley. They're going at it, fighting for a little bit. And they do the whole, the Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, those guys. Like, they want to pin each other. No, they just fought. Bruiser Brody, Abdul the Butcher, whoever you want to, like, big monsters. They just fought on the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, you're counted out of here. So both of them are eliminated. So now we're down to Mace and Ali, Cedric and Shelton. Well, Mace he's pretty much dominating Cedric. He's looking good. Shelton makes the blind tag, and he pins Mace. He hits the pay dirt, so he is eliminated. And then we get Ali, and then Cedric comes back in, and again, they kind of revisit their old feud a little bit. The commentary makes, they say, oh, they were, former allies and, like friendly rivals in the cruiserweight division and stuff. And then, Cedric starts to really dominate him, but then Ali grabs a chair on the outside, boom, cracks him, and then he hightails it out of there when the rest of the Hurt Business come out to defend their own. And, of course, they win here on the DQ. So, I really don't like it. And later on, I'll just get to it now. We saw a promo by Ali. And, he was just, again, hyping up the Hurt Business. But if you keep having to lose like this lose like this because you're not even winning. I can't even say that you're winning. You keep losing the same way they lose every week. They're not losing strong. It's not like none of them got eliminated and they just beat down the last guy with chairs. But even then they would look like losers. You know what I mean? They just look like losers because they're not having them win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, then we get backstage, Angel Garza. He has a rose for Mandy. She rejects him. She's like, hey, Otis and I, we're still good. She said close. All she said was they were close. That's all she said. So, hey, who knows what that means. But then he goes to Dana Brooke, and she's like, whatever. Then Nia Jax, and Nia Jax actually takes the rose. And then Shane is like, dude, get out of here. So then they talk about, the Raw Survivor Series team, and Dana and Mandy, they make a case to say that they should be on it, and one of them should be captains because they're undefeated. And then, they keep going back and forth with that. And then Garza, he's like, not Garza, Shane is like, really? Like when she took the rose from Garza, and then Nia's like, well, hey, why not? She's like, Garza's not bad. So then we get Drew McIntyre. He's in the ring ready for his match with The Miz. And then The Miz enters, and then we get everything, a recap of him beating Otis for the Money in the Bank. And then we get to the match, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't – they didn't give him a long match. It wasn't anything that was, like, super contested, which is how it should be. It's Drew versus The Miz. You had Morrison on the outside. He tried to get involved a little bit. He tries to grab him, or go for a cheap shot rather, but he gets kicked in the face. Then The Miz, he tries to hit our schoolboy when Drew goes back into the ring, and then Drew hits the Claymore, 1, 2, 3, takes him out. So, like I said, The Miz and Morrison, they're still kind of the mid card, still kind of like the funny, the jokey, not really jobbers because he does have Money in the Bank. So. And don't be surprised if he cashes in on Randy Orton, like he did say. He cashed in on Randy Orton around Survivor Series time, a little bit after, right after, I believe. So, he said, hey, so what time is it? It's Survivor Series time. So, hey, history does have a funny way of repeating itself. Don't be surprised if he actually does become WWE Champ, but there was no way in hell that he was beating Drew McIntyre here tonight. Because Drew McIntyre, with or without a belt, top guy. So then backstage with the New Day, they're dressed as the Street Profits. I actually like this segment with the New Day. Let me just say that off the bat. They're impersonating them, and Kofi, he is Angelo Dawkins, so every other word out of his mouth is fam, fam, fam. So they're mocking them. And they pretty much say that at Survivor Series, it will be them versus the Street Profits. So that's why they, are dressed up as them. And they said that it'll be their champion or their women's champion, Asuka, going against the newly crowned SmackDown Women's Champion, Sasha Banks. And then they talk about Randy Orton going against Roman Reigns. So there's probably not going to be any championship matches until Survivor Series, which I'm fine with. The matchups that they showed, I'm more than happy with. If it would be NXT involved, I'd be, to the moon. Probably wouldn't get Finn Balor, but, all the other ones I think would be really good, especially you put Damian Priest in that, which hopefully is Damian Priest, not Johnny Gargano, but Damian Priest, Lashley, and Sami Zayn will be a hell of a match as well, but it doesn't seem like NXT is getting involved. But then the Hurt Business, they interrupt them, and they remind the New Day and Asuka that Lashley is taking on Sami Zayn, and they said that they have their eyes on the New Day's tag belts, but then Asuka interrupts them. She plays the role for Big E and does leads them into the New Day Rocks thing. And then, MVP just kind of looks and is like, oh, my God. Like, he looked like he wanted to start laughing. So he walks away as we go to the commercial break. So then back, we see Drew. He's being interviewed, and he says that Randy Orton is going to be on a moment of bliss tonight, but he's going to have anything or experience nothing of bliss. So, that was good. And he pretty much going to attack tonight, which, hey, that's what we expected. And what I've been saying it this whole thing, they're really – presenting Drew in a top way, and I couldn't be any happier with that. So then we get back to the ring with Adam Pearce, and he announces that the women's tag team for the Survivor Series team is going to be Jax and Baszler, and then it's going to be Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, and then there's going to be a match to determine the last person, and that will be between Lana, Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce, and Nikki Cross. And then we get this 4-way match to qualify for the last spot. And, was it Lacey Evans who's new to Raw? Hey, let's kind of push her because she is good. No. Is it Peyton Royce? She split up from the tag team division. Her? No. Was it Nikki Cross who's finally off, not being held down by Alexa Bliss? Can she, or maybe Alexa Bliss was the only reason she was being pushed? Nope. Wasn't her. Lana. Lana wins this thing, folks. I won't even go through the match because it was all right, I guess, but Lana wins this thing. Maybe this is just for her, going through the tables for 5 weeks in a row. But, hey, it's not over. The going through the tables is not over. But, Lana, she comes from the outside. She pins Nikki Cross, and she didn't do anything the whole match. Does that surprise you? And, when I saw how this went, because Peyton Royce actually didn't look half bad. Lacey Evans is good. Nikki Cross is good. I could see Raw winning this thing and Lana being the last woman. I could see her just doing the exact same thing she did here. She comes in, maybe pins whoever the last woman is on Team SmackDown. Hopefully it's not, if I would do it anyway, it would be Bianca Belair's the last woman on Team SmackDown and they win. To really, hey, you want to push Bianca. So that would be cool. But we'll see where they go. I wouldn't be surprised if Lana, like I said, is the sole survivor come Survivor Series. But then post-match, she's like, oh, I'm so happy. She hugs Nia Jax. And then, the two blondes are looking like, are you sure you really want to be hugging her? And then Shayna clears off the announce table quick. Samoan drops her through the table. So then we get to Orton's locker room, and then he's being interviewed about walking into the Lion's Den during a moment of bliss with the Fiend, and then, and Drew lurking, and then Orton says that I'm not afraid of the Fiend, and if he wants to show his ugly face during a moment of bliss, then that's fine. I have no problem introducing him to the 3 most dangerous letters in sports entertainment, the RKO. So you know what? There we go. I actually combined the 2 segments. Can you fault me? Why the hell are you going to interview Randy Orton twice about the same fucking thing? So then back to the ring, we see Matt Riddle. He's entering for his Survivor Series qualifying match against Sheamus. And then now we get to the promo with Retribution, which I had touched on earlier. And Ali said that Retribution isn't it's not an entity. It's not a team, that it's a mission, and that they're willing to sacrifice anything and everything. And he says, we win when you suffer, and we will win because we decide when you get shut down. Really? Because you're not shutting down anybody in the ring, Ali. I love you, but please, you guys got to start winning, or you're just jokes. So then we get Sheamus versus Matt Riddle, Survivor Series qualifier. This was a hell of a match. This was the best out of the 3. Sheamus, Matt Riddle, they beat the hell out of each other. Really good stuff from Sheamus. You're amazed by Sheamus when you see him. At least I am. It's like, okay, 4-time WWE champ, Royal Rumble winner. They say all this legit stuff, but it's like, okay, this guy's probably over the hill. No, he looks good. He looks fantastic. Matt Riddle, obviously I'm a fan of the bro. But, I don't know. They even mentioned here on commentary that he doesn't have a lot of friends, on Monday Night Raw. He kind of rubs some people the wrong way. So it's just a little bit of an Austin Theory thing. I don't know. But I love, like, the final sequence of this thing. They were just really beating the hell out of each other. Good stuff. Just working over the small, the injured part of the back for Matt Riddle. And, Sheamus hit the bro kick. 1, 2, 3. Awesome stuff. Best match on Monday Night Raw by far tonight. And, but Sheamus wins. And that's the one thing I'm like, I don't know. But again, like I just said, is this Matt Riddle's rubbing people the wrong way? Let's teach him a lesson. Let's, hey, kid, you got to respect the people in the locker room. There's a code here. WWE's really old school with some of that kind of shit. So I don't know. But also it's the just Survivor Series team. I'm not trying to downplay that, but it's not like, oh, yeah, if you're on that team and you win, you get something. Matt Riddle can now be hopefully put in a singles feud where he can shine more. So we'll see what they do with the original bro. But I hope they don't just, I hope they're not just jobbing him out, because you heard a couple weeks ago or a month or 2 ago, Vince loved him. Now here we are seeing this. But great match nonetheless. Sheamus, he deserves everything he gets, for a counterpoint to this. So I really can't complain. And then now we get back live for the main event, a moment of bliss. So then, Alexa Bliss is out there. She's not in normal clothes. Obviously, she's still fooling on the Fiend thing. So her outfit reflects that. And then Orton chooses. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to stand. I'm not going to sit. Alexa Bliss, she asked him if he was surprised by his performance last night. And he said no. And he asked Bliss if she has a surprise for him. She says no. And she asks what kind of talk show wouldn't want to have the WWE champion on after he and Drew burned the house down. And then Orton's like, yep, burn the house down. Okay. He's like, I know what you're after. And he said, I know that the Fiend is close and that he asked where he is. But before Bliss can answer, Drew comes out. They start beating the hell out of each other. Bliss is just sitting on the top rope, just laughing menacingly. Really, she's really, like Juan had touched on this, how good she is at selling this. Each and every week, I feel she's getting better with the facial expressions. And she just looks crazy and insane. So this is a really good role for her. Now I'm not trying to say she's a crazy and insane, but she can play this really well. And her doing more of like an acting kind of role like this is definitely preferred on WWE. So I'm fine with this. And the Drew, he takes down Orton. They're just going after each other. He sets up for the Claymore. The lights go out. The Fiend, he's in the building. He's here. And then he's standing there on the entrance ramp. Or Orton is on the entrance ramp with his title, rather. And then, the Fiend, he's right behind him. And then, they just continue to brawl. The Fiend doesn't touch him. I like that. The Fiend just kind of stands there, watches this thing. They all just start fighting each other. And then Orton smashes Drew into the announce desk. And then, that's pretty much it. They just end the show. Orton's just standing there. Drew's like, it's done. And, we see what goes on. So Drew, the Fiend, Randy Orton, Miz. We got a pretty exciting main event, I would say. Even though earlier I was saying the Miz is kind of in the mid-card. He's kind of whatever. When you have that Money in the Bank, Miz knows what to do with it. WWE Creative knows what to do with it on the Miz. They just had no clue what to do with it on Otis. So, and also speaking of Otis, we didn't see nothing with that with Tucker, or any of that. So maybe we'll see that on SmackDown. Who knows? But the main event scene is definitely looking really good. Tag team scene, But, that was Monday Night Raw. And build towards Survivor Series, The women's division, and the tag team division pretty much non-existent on Monday Night Raw at this point. But the main event looks good. The build towards Survivor Series is off to a pretty good start. And I can't complain. The only thing really on this show that was a stinker, anything involving the 24/7 championship, is garbage. That women's fatal 4-way match, and the Hurt Business and Retribution. Just because I think you could have picked a better woman for the Raw Survivor Series team, at least made this match, semi-legit, considering you have now 2 joke women on the 3, if you want to count Nia, 3 joke women on the team. And Mandy Rose, I mean, she's not bad, but she's not, Shayna Baszler is really the only legit woman on this team. And, so that's going to be a joke in itself, that match, like I had said. And, the thing, Retribution, they need to win. I like the Hurt Business, but unless you're going to put gold on the Hurt Business, then, you should push Retribution, because the way you do the promos and Ali, it's this one thing you can say all you want, but then if you keep losing matches and, you're not costing anybody from winning matches, then what the hell's the point? But I can't really complain. Overall, this was a lot better than we've seen in recent weeks. Will the trend continue? I hope so, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because that will be for a week, and then you won't see this pretty face next Tuesday morning. But guys, thank you so much for watching. And, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on all the social media. Rope Break on Facebook, the OG Rope Break on Twitter, Original Rope Break on Instagram, and, of course, the Original Rope Break right here on YouTube for the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and our new home, alleverythingentertainment.com. Guys, thank you so much, and we will see you next time for, switching it up this time, Halloween Havoc on Wednesday. Covering that first, and we'll be doing AEW Dynamite Thursday. So, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you then.